I be like, sheesh, sunset on the beach. Make me wanna pull up on Miami with the heat. I don't know about you, but I know about me.
All right, welcome back to the Anytime Sports Podcast Show. Hope everyone's Thanksgiving was better than Matt Eberflus. We'll get into that, but hope. All right, let's get into Week 13. Starting off with the Chicago Bears and Detroit Lions game. Andrew, what happened to the Bears?
Really, the right question to ask is what didn't happen to the Bears. Literally, this game was obviously NFL fans, and since it was Thanksgiving and it was national, everybody knows that Bears were bugging basically.
Bears are bugging.
Bears are bugging.
Let's go over some stats here. Caleb Williams, 20 of 39 for 256, 3 touchdowns. He had a decent day in the office. Jared Goff had an okay day. It was 21 of 34 for 221 yards and 2 touchdowns. Of course, Detroit's continuing to win every single game as they move to 11-1, and they got to keep winning games because Minnesota is right behind them in 10-2. So it'll be very interesting to see who wins that division. They're only a couple games away from just being a wild card team.
Yeah. And
that's crazy to think about.
Yeah, Minnesota in a rebuilding year too, which is also insane. But like we were saying, for the Bears' sake, it's a constant cycle. Coach gets fired, quarterback gets drafted, this and that, and this and that, and then to do that on national television during the Thanksgiving.
Do you have any hope for the Bears?
Yes.
At all?
Yes.
Is there any hope in the organization? Because I still don't think. It's hard to say, but I don't have hope in this Bears team. I really don't. With the current owners that they have, the front office is absolutely horrendous. The worst in the NFL. The hardest owners to deal with.
Yeah.
I don't think there is any hope, really.
Yeah, I think Bears fans, at least myself, look at that sign of hope to be with Caleb, with the players, at least. That's what I look forward to. I see Caleb making these stellar throws, leading them to overtime with the Vikings, to final field goal with the Packers, to limiting the defense, limiting the Lions to only 7 points in the second half.
Answer me this question. And you could tell me if my assumption is a little off here, but this might remind me as a Matthew Stafford with the Lions for years. Terrible, terrible ownership. Terrible front office. They turn over the ownership to they pass on the ownership to within the family, but she knows actually what she's doing. The owner who's running the Lions right now, and they hire Dan Campbell, they have a good staff in there now, so they're a better run team. This reminds me of a Detroit Lions team with a Matthew Stafford, such a superb talent, but can never get over the hump and never get to the playoffs because of just the organization. That's how it's run. It just seems like that is the best case scenario for the Bears is a couple of 500 record. That's what I really think the Bears' best case scenario is. I don't know. I think you had your shot last year at Harbaugh, and we'll talk about it later in the news segment because there's a big article that just came out today that we'll talk about. But you missed your chance with Harbaugh. Harbaugh was the guy. He was the quote-unquote Bears head coach. Like, he is the – He is Chicago. He played in Chicago. I mean, he's the coach you needed. And we'll talk about that later, but I don't know. Ben Johnson, such a good offensive coordinator. Who knows if he ends up being a great head coach?
Yeah.
You got to hire Ben Johnson. You just got to hope he takes the money and is the head coach, but it's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
You just went through the head coach and QB carousel. I don't know how many times over the past 10 years.
Yeah, at least.
I mean,
yeah, a lot.
It's ridiculous. You went from Lovie Smith fired after an 8-8 year, I think, or something like that. Fired. You hired Trestman. Trestman was terrible head coach. You hire John Fox. John Fox doesn't do any better. You fire John Fox. You hire Matt Nagy, the guy who didn't run any play calls in Kansas City, except in a playoff game where they ended up losing. So you hire Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy gives you a couple good years because the roster he inherited was pretty good. He couldn't do anything with Mitchell Trubisky, so he got Trubisky was out of there. He drafted Fields, couldn't do anything with Fields. Nagy gets fired. You hire Eberflus. Fields and Eberflus, you just knew that wasn't going to be a great match right away. You knew Eberflus wasn't the greatest head coach. It was a terrible hire from the beginning. They hire him, and then he drives the quarterback out of town. You draft a no-brainer quarterback in Caleb Williams, some guy that's supposed to be this generational talent, which he is very, very talented, but is not set up to succeed in Chicago. It's very reminiscent of just the cycle of quarterback head coach firings just back to back to back to back. You need to get this right, and I think you had a chance to get it right last year with Jim Harbaugh, but what are your thoughts on the Bears? Who do you want to be the Bears head coach? I mean, we'll probably have some discussions about this later in the offseason, maybe before they hire a head coach. But right now, if you're the Bears general manager, which you'll probably talk to Kevin Warren before you make any decision. That we'll discuss about that later as well. But if you're the head, let's just say the head and running the Chicago Bears roster, who are you hiring as your head coach?
Yeah, it's really interesting because all that it does with Thomas Brown is say, and I'm not saying to do it, is say he somehow, because this is a very talented Bears team, I'm not saying that they'll win out or not even win another game the rest of the season, but say Thomas Brown is really good. He wins out like 5 games for the rest of the year. That only makes the head coaching decision tougher. And say he does do good, McCaskey's hire him. Then when he gets a full year, when he gets to his first full year, then he's a bum. Then you're back in the cycle. So he'll always be in that discussion for head coaches. But if I had to pick, obviously you said Ben Johnson, he's up in there. There's been rumors floating around Bears trading for Shanahan and McVay. I wouldn't give up picks for a coach.
I would love.
Yeah.
That's where we disagree.
That's
where we disagree. I'm sorry.
There's just so many holes on the team, though. There's the offensive line. There's the defensive line.
I'm sorry. You call up the 49ers right now and get the best coach you would ever have in your history, Kyle Shanahan. You don't think he would come here with a young Caleb Williams if you give him all the rights to run this team? And him and Poles are on the same page. If you trade for him to get him here, the 49ers have this old roster, and they're towards the end. They're not. I don't see another Super Bowl run. And you got Brock Purdy, who we can talk about. I think he's hit his ceiling, and he is only as good as the guys that you put around him. I don't think he could elevate as much. Say what you want about Caleb Williams, but he's able to elevate some of the guys on this roster, elevate some of the coaching mistakes that Eberflus made. It was even a miracle that this game was even close towards the end. In Detroit, we could talk about Minnesota, where he less than 2 minutes left led them into overtime. Uber talented. I don't think Brock Purdy's that guy, and you're gonna have to pay him. You're gonna have to pay him a lot of money. And rosters can be old. They can't really they draft very well, but it's gonna take a while. I don't know if Shanahan wants to stay around for that. I think you give him a call and you ask. I mean, what's the harm in asking? You've never had a great head coach like that. You've never had a head coach like that before. A great offensive-minded head coach. You had a shot to hire Bruce Arians, but you went with Mark Trestman. Mm-hmm. You bet you regret that right now. If you would rather have Bruce Arians than you would have Mark Trestman. That's for dang sure. But I would.
Yeah,
I would. I
could see that.
I think I'd only give up 2 first-rounders.
Yeah, I wouldn't give more.
I give up 2 first-rounders.
At the same time, though, there is a lot of coaches out there this offseason. You got Mike Vrabel. Arguably, if the Browns fire Stefanski, you have him. I don't know if they will, but you have a lot of these guys that are going to be out there. Ben Johnson, Kellen Moore, maybe Cliff Kingsbury. There's a lot of options out there, but like you're saying, there's a guy like Kyle Shanahan out there that maybe you do want to go out for him because you need a guy that's going to lead this team because you're very, very talented. Eberflus is not talented at all, and we'll see that this Sunday with the Bears, see what they'll look like under a new head coach. Obviously, Thomas Brown hasn't been a head coach before, let alone he had 3 weeks as an offensive coordinator too, so the stress on him has got to be insane going from passing game coordinator, offensive coordinator. Okay, now you're our head coach for a franchise that needs a head coach so bad. So it'll be interesting to see as it goes on. But I'll ask you, and then we'll move off the Bears. If you had one head coach, who would it be?
I say if you're the Bears, you spend a whole bunch of money developing a time machine. You make the time machine, you go back and you warn yourself, hire Jim Harbaugh, and then see where we are. That's If I'm the Bears, that's what I'm doing. And if I'm the Bears now, I'm calling for Shanahan. They're gonna laugh at your face and say, "We're not trading Shanahan." And then after that, I kind of go in the corner and cry if I'm Chicago.
Which is where you're gonna be.
Especially if Harbaugh wins the Super Bowl with the Chargers, which I think he has a great chance of doing. Not this year, but in the next couple of years. Yeah, that'd be very hard to stomach as a Bears fan. And let's move on to another game.
Yeah.
Let's go to Kansas City, Las Vegas. Kansas City ends up winning this game 19-17. Raiders did their best chance to win this game as Aiden O'Connell was 23 of 35 for 340 yards and 2 touchdowns. And the botch snap at the end of the game, gosh, that hurts. You had a shot to knock him off, and that hurts. What were your thoughts of this game?
Yeah, it's every week after every week with the Chiefs with this like devil magic and just winning games in these tight situations like the Broncos, they blocked the field goal. This miscue in this game, it seems like every single reason for the Chiefs to win. Now come playoffs,
You're pausing.
Oh, my bad. Now come playoffs, this could be a completely different situation. Say Chiefs will play the Bills. They couldn't beat the Bills. They're winning these close games. Botched snap, blocked field goal, coming out with these wins, and especially with the AFC being the way it is, and especially with the first week of the season, they won because Isaiah Likely's foot was out by this much. Once this playoffs go on, you may not see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl this year, considering how high caliber the other teams are. And arguably, I think that the Chargers, next time they face the Chiefs this season, coming up here in a couple of weeks, that they will beat them. I think the Chargers are better. I mean, I'm not saying Andy Reid is a bad coach, but I think the Chargers have more talent. They obviously we're lacking talent on paper, but so are the Chiefs. But I think that the Chargers very well could be the Chiefs and could be the dark horse for the playoffs. The Chiefs are they haven't had like a dominant win all season, basically. Even with the Panthers, they were close the entire game, or they were close, and that game finished within the drive. But Bryce Young has been playing lights out recently. But I'll ask you, do you think that the Chiefs are on fraud watch? I mean, they are 11-1, but at the same time, you're going 2 points within the Raiders, a couple points within the Panthers. What do you think?
It just feels like this Kansas City Chiefs team's going to win another Super Bowl. And here's what I'll say.
I can see
Here's
that.
what I'll say here. Yes, there is some form of luck that is involved, but yet it's not. That block field goal to win the game against Denver, that was all coaching. Special teams, great play. And some of these wins that they've had, yes, they've had some luck, but it's great coaching involved. They're getting everything out of this roster. And everyone counting the Chiefs out this early, we all said it last year. We were like, oh, the Chiefs are not going to win back-to-back. Are you kidding me? This roster is not set to win back-to-back. Guess what they did? They won back-to-back. We're here in the same situation where the Chiefs are like, oh, they're not going to win, but Look at they're 11-1 right now. They've been there, done that. They've done this before. A healthy Isaiah Pacheco heading into the playoffs with the double-headed monster with Kareem Hunt. You don't think that's going to turn some heads in the playoffs? Patrick Mahomes come playoff time likes to kick it up a notch. So we'll see if as long as he could stop throwing interceptions, which in this game he didn't have an interception, but that will be huge. I agree with you. I think the Chargers will beat Kansas City. I think that'll happen. They played a very close game last time they played, and if it wasn't for a Herbert injury, this might have been the other way around. They might be 11-2, but the Chiefs they need to head back to the drawing board, and I think they're not peaking. They're not peaking right now, and I think they're saving some stuff come playoff time. At least I hope so for their sake. But yeah. That's what I think about the Chiefs right now. Let's head into another game. Let's head into Minnesota, Arizona. All right. Minnesota, Arizona.
Minnesota coming out on top 23-22. This one was a close game. This is the 5th win straight for the Vikings. Sam Darnold, they really clutched back towards the end of this game. They put up 10 points in the fourth quarter and didn't put up a single touchdown in the first half of this game. And the Vikings are still stringing wins together, especially in a rebuilding year, and this just proves.
I put up this team for a reason. I want to go over this game because Sam Darnold leads a comeback late in this game to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? Sam Darnold's on an expiring contract. He's only 27 years old, so we're not talking about somebody like a Geno Smith here.
Yeah.
We're talking about a guy that's still in his prime of his career. Are you moving on from J.J. McCarthy? Because you don't know. He just got his injury kept getting worse. I think he re-injured his I think it was his leg or something.
Yeah.
But what do you do if you're Minnesota right now? I think we've talked about this on the show before. But Sam Darnold keeps playing this good and leads you back into games. If they make it deep into the playoffs, it's going to be very hard for the Minnesota Vikings to make a decision. And I mean, I wish that was the Bears' decision. They'd have to make. They'd have two quarterbacks they'd have to make.
It's a good decision to
make.
But
I think it's a good thing to have. But Sam Darnold's. He's not going to get a bunch of money. I don't think he'd ask for a bunch of money. I think he just wants stability in his career. He's been in places where they're unstable. Think of Carolina. Think of the New York Jets. Both unstable franchises. Goes to Shanahan for a year. Stays under there. And the 49ers didn't want to let him walk. They loved him, but they couldn't match the contract that the Vikings had offered, and the Vikings ended up getting him. And under this system, he's a great fit for Kevin O'Connell's system, who runs the same thing as Kyle Shanahan. So, I think you got to extend him. If you can get a middle of the road contract, if you can get him to accept that, I would do that, and then I would have either J.J. McCarthy sit behind him or trade J.J. McCarthy. It's either one or the other. I don't know. What are your thoughts? And we'll get to the Cardinals in a second.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. Like you were saying, Sam Darnold is still super, super young. And obviously the beginning of his career was a bit iffy, kind of like a Bryce Young situation. And he did start going with the Jets and the Panthers, but like you were saying, he's young, and if you do make the playoffs, you just drafted this guy. Sam Darnold was supposed to be this guy for a rebuild year. He's supposed to tide it over until McCarthy is better, but they did go out and draft him. But at the same time, there's a lot of teams that would like a quarterback right now. And if Sam Darnold is your guy and he's working and he gets you to the playoffs, why get rid of Darnold when he's still younger? Maybe give up a couple, because J.J. McCarthy is obviously a little younger than him. Maybe give up those couple years and say, hey, we'll take Sam Darnold. He was in the system a year. He led us to the playoffs. Let's extend him. Let's pay him. There you go. You got your quarterback. And which I could very well see that, though. With if they make it to the playoffs, they would keep Darnold.
Another wrench that will throw into the system, they signed Daniel Jones to the practice squad. And he might make the active roster and be a backup quarterback for this team. What does a guy like Daniel Jones bring as a backup quarterback And what do you think he's not hit his potential yet?
Yeah, I think he could very well be like another Sam Darnold situation. Like you're kind of put in the bad system to start your career because obviously New York isn't that good. He had a good year a couple of years ago, which is why he got the contract extension he did. And I think he can make an impact because he's been in the league, 4 years now or something, and he has that veteran experience. So you're helping along J.J. McCarthy. He is only a rest of the year guy, but say Sam Darnold does go down or something happens with Sam Darnold, then you have Daniel Jones there just in case something goes south. Because obviously quarterbacks change once they're put in different systems, different coaching. And I very well think that Daniel Jones could be changed in that system. Not to say that he will get a shot to play, because if Sam Darnold stays healthy, there's no way Daniel Jones is touching the field. But that option's always there, and it's good because Daniel Jones is kind of lethal on his legs, which Sam Darnold isn't.
With him going to the Minnesota Vikings, it's a great fit. I mean,
Yeah.
scheme-wise, it's a great fit. He has played the best in the scheme. So I really like it, him going there. It'll be interesting to see if they extend him there in Minnesota to either be the backup quarterback, backup to Sam, or backup to J.J. McCarthy. I think you're signing either one of those two. It's either going to be rolling with J.J. McCarthy and then have Daniel Jones as your backup, or it'll be Sam Darnold and then Daniel Jones as your backup.
Yeah.
And then maybe trade J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah.
J.J. McCarthy, the only reason why I say maybe extend Sam Darnold is because it was all known that J.J. McCarthy was going to be a project. He was going to take a while to develop. And with injuries now early in his career, that might hinder his development in the NFL. And if you got a guy like Sam Darnold who's playing so good, and if you can get him on a decent contract, I like that over a guy who's very unknown.
Yeah.
He'll probably have 3 more years left on his contract, J.J. McCarthy. And you haven't seen anything to say he's going to be the best thing since sliced bread. So I don't mind the idea of Sam Darnold signing back with the Minnesota Vikings. It just makes more sense to me. But let's head to the other side of the ball. The Arizona Cardinals. It felt like they had this game under wraps. It really did. And all of a sudden, they have a second half blunder. Kyler Murray, 31 and 45, 260, a touchdown and 2 touchdowns. I'm going to ask you this. I mean, it just always feels like Arizona is always hot and cold. They can never win a bunch consistently with Kyler Murray under the pocket.
Yeah, and a couple of years
ago... Is this more on Kyler Murray? Is this just the Arizona Cardinals?
It could be just the Cardinals, because a couple of years ago, they did this exact same thing. They were really hot, and that hot streak was at the beginning of the season. I think they went 9-0 or 10-0 or something crazy like that. And then they fell off. They didn't make it far in the playoffs, if they made the playoffs at all. And it's kind of like this hot and cold, because if they were to play like they do when they're hot, they would be a great team. They'd be winning the division. And with a good margin. And with this hot and cold thing, you need to beat these good teams. You're beating the Bears, okay. You beat these other smaller teams, but you need to beat the Vikings. You need to beat these big teams to prove you're going to be one of these top teams. But I think that it's obviously a little spotty under Kyler Murray, but I think he's a good player, and he makes it work with his legs, and he makes it work, and he just slings it, and especially with the weapons he has on offense with MHJ, McBride. Connor isn't too bad, and then I think they're a well put together team. It's just the fact of competing with these bigger teams.
The year you were talking about was 2021 when they went 7-0 before losing in Week 8 against the Green Bay Packers on Thursday Night Football. I think in that game was where Rodgers had that game-winning drive, and he ended it. There was a good catch at the end of that game, if I remember. But that was a while ago. But Arizona, that was the last time they had a great start to the season. They're 6-6 right now. It's a little hard to... I don't think Kyler's as dedicated to the game as someone like a Tom Brady or something.
Yeah.
I mean, Tom Brady, that's not a fair analogy because he's just outworks everybody.
Kyler Murray's dedicated to a different kind of game, Black Ops 6.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably prestige, whatever.
Yeah,
What's the highest in Call of Duty?
I don't know.
Uh, um, yeah, I mean, he's a very talented quarterback, but I don't know if this team's going to go very far. It just doesn't seem like they're going to go far. Um, they're still wide open in this division. The NFC West is wide open. Seattle's winning it with they're 7-5. Arizona's 6-6. The Rams are 6-6. San Francisco's 5-7. San Francisco's still in this division with only 5 wins. That's
Yeah,
insane. Insane to think about right now. We all thought this division was going to be amazing this season, yet there's some teams struggling just to be 500 right now. It's crazy. It's crazy to see how some twists and turns the NFL like that. Let's move on to another game. Let's move on to the 5 interception performance by Mr. Kirk Cousins.
yep,
Mr. Prime time against the LA Chargers. Yet, this game wasn't a blowout. It was 17-13. Kind of an ugly game. No one could really get something going. Justin Herbert was 16-23 for 147 yards. You expect more from him. And as we mentioned, Kirk Cousins, 24-39 for 245 yards and 4 interceptions. Andrew, your thoughts?
yeah. Really. Obviously, you can't throw 4 interceptions in the game. Despite throwing 4 interceptions, the Falcons were very well in this game. They scored 6 in the third, and they didn't score any in the second and fourth. But they obviously this game was a lot closer than you would think. But the Chargers, on the other hand, good job on them. Good job in the defense, even though there were some atrocious passes by Kirk Cousins. But yeah, good job on the Chargers pulling out this win, and these are some of the wins because the Falcons weren't necessarily a bad team going into this. And these are like the type of wins you're gonna want to win. You can beat these big teams. Once you beat teams that are around your same skill level, you're proving that hey, we can beat you guys too. But Gus Edwards really didn't get going on the ground. It's obviously J.K. Dobbins is on the IR now, so that's gonna be a little tricky for the Chargers. Gus Edwards had 6 carries for 32 yards. You kind of need more than 17 carries if you're the Chargers.
Let me ask you this question. Let's go back to the Falcons. Kirk Cousins, they have been on a 3-game losing streak. Kirk Cousins has not thrown a single touchdown in those 3 losses, and he's got a combined of 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 interceptions during that time. Yikes.
Yeah.
Is it time to say, let's see what Michael Penix got? Let's see what he's got. It's late in the season right now. He might be our option.
Yeah.
You him with the 8th overall pick. He's 24 years old. Let's see what the guy's got. I don't know. Is it time to let him go?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to give him a shot. You're not out of contention yet, and especially you're in first place technically in the division, just behind with Tampa Bay just behind. They've been spotty. New Orleans behind. Carolina, they're not going to do anything. And if Kirk Cousins keeps playing the way he does, he can sell the season. They probably picked Penix knowing, hey, Kirk Cousins might play spotty sometimes. Why else would you draft a quarterback in the first round when you just went out and paid Kirk Cousins? Because Kirk Cousins is a talented quarterback. Don't get me wrong. He's had some great years, but this little stretch that he's on these last 3 games has got to raise some eyebrows to put Penix in because he's a young guy. Get him that experience and say, hey, Cousins does work out for the next 4 years. Then trade Penix. That'll raise his value. But say Cousins doesn't work out, then Penix is in, then you have your quarterback of the future. But yeah, I think this is the start. This is the part of the year for the Falcons where if you're going to let Kirk go in and they're going to lose more games, you're going to be out of it. But if you're going to want to get Penix some reps and crucial reps, this is where you got to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think since they are so close to the playoffs right now, you got to roll with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
I think he gives you your best chance at making the playoffs. I think this would be in a little bit different of a situation if they didn't win those games that they won earlier on in the season. You'd be looking at this team and like, yeah, we're kind of out of the playoffs. Let's see what Penix got. Let's see if he could play a little bit. So I think right now you have to kind of roll with Kirk Cousins, but hey, I mean, who knows? We've seen crazier stuff happen in the NFL before, and that wouldn't be the craziest. Let's talk about the Chargers, as you mentioned. I mean, they didn't get really anything going in the rushing game. J.K. Dobbins on IR, so they're going to have to get something going in the rushing game. I think that really hurt them in this one. Lab McConkey had a tough game, 9 receptions, 117 yards. Hey, it wasn't pretty, but they ended up winning this one, and especially off of the defensive performance, picking off Kirk Cousins 4 times helps them win this one. Defense played absolutely amazing. You got to say that. And I'm gonna ask you this one: how far do you think the Chargers can go?
Yeah.
Because we've seen them play some good teams, and they've lost. Like they've lost to some good teams. I'll name you the Steelers, the Chiefs. They've lost to the Cardinals. I mean, you could say okay, maybe. They've lost to the Ravens. Those are the teams they've lost to. They get the Chiefs coming up at Sunday Night Football this weekend, and we mentioned how we like the Chiefs in this one. What can you say about this Chiefs team, or not Chiefs team, this Chargers team? Are they a serious contender in the playoffs, or are we just seeing maybe a one and done this season?
Yeah, I think that they're not necessarily a serious contender, but they're a dark horse team. We've said that on the podcast before, that they're our dark horse team for the playoffs. They're 8-4, and 8-4 is a good feat with your 4 losses against the teams you had them against. And say that you keep it rolling. This game obviously wasn't the greatest statistical performance, and J.K. Dobbins being out, that could be a crucial blow. It depends how far Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh are going to take this team. Single-handedly, this team isn't full of high talent. This team isn't full of Drake London's, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams. They don't have that high caliber receiver nor high caliber running back like they had last year, Keenan Allen and Austin Eckler. And they're making it work with the team they have, and we've seen that with the Chiefs. They're making it work with the team they have and good coaching. See what good coaching does. But I think that they could very well, this Sunday night will be a big test and probably their most crucial game of the season to prove, hey, are we going to be able to beat the top team in the AFC right now? And that'll be the biggest test for them.
It will be. Yeah, I think the Chargers are just they're not the most serious contender this season. I think a couple years down the road, they'll be a legit contender.
Yeah.
I think they'll make the playoffs, and I think they might win a playoff game, but a Super Bowl I don't think is in the picture in John Harbaugh's first year. I think it's just continuity with the team, get some draft picks, get some young talent in there, and coach them up. But moving on to a team that should be treated as Super Bowl contenders, the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Baltimore Ravens 24-19. Andrew, this game just looked like Philadelphia had it under control the whole game.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched it, but it just looked
Yeah.
like Philadelphia was able to absolutely get this one. And we'll talk about the Ravens, because the Ravens made some... I mean, they missed a lot of kicks that could have ended up winning them a game. And Justin Tucker, he was 2 of 4 on his field goals, and he was 1 of 2 on his extra points. That is terrible. Terrible.
The only reason Justin Tucker isn't cut right now is because he's a Hall of Fame kicker. And that's the only reason he's cut, because he's been a top kicker in the league for a while. And yeah, he's probably on a little slump, but he's like Celtic Shaq right now. Like he's on his downfall. And obviously for the Ravens, this is a game you want to win. This could be earlier in the season, midway through the season. This could be like, hey, this could be a Super Bowl matchup.
Is it time to fire John Harbaugh?
No, I don't think you raised the red flag yet. But if they don't,
Can you answer this question? Tell me if this is a truth or it's a false. It has been very underwhelming under the John Harbaugh, Lamar Jackson era.
Yes, I would agree. Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP, arguably a 3rd-time MVP this season. You have that quarterback. Why aren't you making the Super Bowl? I get there's the Chiefs, but you need to beat the Chiefs. You need to beat the Bills. You have Zay Flowers. You have Mark Andrew. You have Isaiah Likely. You have Roquan Smith on the defense. You have Derrick Henry now. Freaking Derrick Henry. And you're 8-5. You can't beat the Eagles. You can't keep it close with the Eagles.
They don't seem like a legit contender.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, they just don't. You do not seem like a legit contender right now, and this is very alarming given you went out and you got it. Derrick Henry and you got Lamar Jackson, you should be absolutely unstoppable. Well, the defense's secondary has taken a step back. They've lost some guys. They're not playing as good as they were in years past. It's giving them more on Lamar's plate. And we all know Lamar's not the strongest down the field thrower. He can definitely throw the ball downfield. He is not the strongest down the field thrower, and he puts up great regular season stats. But in the playoffs, this team can't do anything, and it's very frustrating right now if you're a Ravens fan. John Harbaugh, he's been a very, very good coach for a long time, but I think a new change of scenery might do him justice. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if Baltimore fans agree with that, but it's been very underwhelming when you've had a multi-MVP player not have a Super Bowl ring in his career right now. It's just, it's unacceptable with some of the players on the roster that they have right now.
Yeah.
You got guys like Roquan Smith. Kyle Hamilton is an absolute monster in the secondary. You got those defense side of the ball and Zay Flowers you pick up.
Yeah.
Wide receiver wise, that's good. You get Deontay Johnson. You trade for Deontay Johnson, and yet you suspend him this week for stuff detriment to the team.
Yeah.
What a move that was to trade for Deontay Johnson and not use him at all.
Yeah.
I think the dumbest decision ever. It might have been just to trade him to get him on your team so nobody else can get him on their team. But
Yeah.
really, you got to use him. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's
So they a loss to the Steelers, a win against the Chargers, and a loss against the Eagles. Good news is you play a New York Giants team next week, so you could definitely get a rebound against that team. But
Yeah, it's-
I don't think
yeah.
Baltimore's a legit contender.
I think that at this point in the season, you need to basically have 10 wins or 9 wins to be a contender, at least look decent, like the Chargers. Now, the Chargers don't have the wins to show for it, but they have the talent. They've been able to put together some close games. The Ravens, like I was saying, the Chargers don't have...
Chargers lost,
Yeah.
and they've lost to the Ravens.
Yeah,
but
Chargers...
those two teams
yeah.
just
You could tell. You could tell because the Ravens have like 4-man fantasy league type of roster, and Chargers are like 60-man fantasy league type of roster. Like Chargers, bunch of randos. They're putting together wins. They're in the playoff talk. Ravens still in the playoff talk, but you got Derrick Henry, Lamar, like we're saying, Justice Hill, all these big guys, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, and you have 5 losses on the season. Pittsburgh's leading the
I think
division.
Justice Hill is going to compliment you on calling him a big guy.
I just listed off guys. But you got all these.
He's not a big superstar either.
Yeah, but you got all these all these guys and all this talent, especially Lamar, and you're still not putting up wins. Lamar didn't even. He was 237 for 2 touchdowns, 23-36. He had 79 on the ground, but Derrick Henry only picking up 82 yards. When they were winning is when Derrick Henry was getting hot. Derrick Henry got absolutely laid out by Cooper DeJean in this game. And also for the Ravens, the Steelers are hot. Russell Wilson is back. Mr. Unlimited. And they're doing good. And I think that Steelers, arguably right now, are better than the Ravens. The Ravens have been iffy, especially on the road. But we could see that as it goes on these weeks and with going up their schedule for the remainder of the season. Looking at Giants, Pittsburgh, Houston, and Cleveland. Cleveland has been iffy. Pittsburgh, that game will be huge for them, and same with Houston. They did go on a 5-game winning streak towards the middle of the season, but starting to level out now, and we'll have to see how they're going to be as the playoffs approach.
Yeah. Let's move on to another team that is overachieving right now. Not overachieving, but just playing very, very good football. The Buffalo Bills ended up winning against the San Francisco 49ers in that snow-filled game that had the 49ers leaving everything on the table, and yet it just wasn't enough. It just seemed like Buffalo was dominant in this game. James Cook had himself a
Yeah.
game. 14 carries, 107 yards, and touchdown. He had fun in the snow. So did Josh Allen, catching his lateral from Amari Cooper
Yeah, that was
and
insane.
scoring a touchdown. Everyone saw that one. That was pretty cool. Right now, if I had to choose an MVP, I think I'd choose Josh Allen. If I get a vote, I think I would choose Josh Allen. I think he's been the best in the NFL right now. I don't know. He just feels like the best. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I would agree.
What do you think?
Yeah, I would agree with Josh Allen. But and Bills are obviously going to be a deep playoff team, as they always are. But I'm going to want to turn this to the 49ers. What a year they're having. Not in a good way. But I see all these excuses all the time. Oh, it's a snow game. Oh, Dolphins and Niners can't play in snow. It's football. You're going to need to play in snow no matter what climate you play in. And say you can drop a game because of snow. But the Niners have been bad this year. Brock Purdy only completed 11 passes on 18 attempts. I get it snowing in that. But your running game didn't even get going too. Christian McCaffrey obviously went out in this game, but
So did Jordan Mason as
Yeah.
well. So they're Isaiah Garendo as a third-string running back. So let's see how that ends up.
Yeah.
He had a good game earlier in the season.
yeah, but Brock Purdy also, does this prove that he's a system quarterback? Because last year everyone was healthy. Debo was healthy. George Kittle was healthy. CMC was healthy, single-handedly carrying him to the playoffs. He was drafted with the last pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant. They didn't draft him to lead this team to the Super Bowl. He was kind of an unexpected guy coming up, but I mean, what do you know? And
If you're the GM for the 49ers, are you paying him?
that's the thing, though. It's an interesting situation because he led you to the Super Bowl, but at the same time, you're 5-7 right now. If I'm the GM, I think I'm not paying him yet. I think you got to give him another year, and if you do, and then if not, then you got to move on. You got to find someone else because obviously you got rid of Jimmy G, Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, so you're obviously stuck to Purdy, unless you pick up a guy. Vikings want to get rid of Sam Darnold, bring him back. Maybe J.J. McCarthy, work on him, like that, like those kind of quarterbacks. And there's also some other guys floating around, but they're basically stuck with Purdy now. It just depends if they want to pay him. Do you think they're going to pay him though?
Yes, they're going to end up paying him. Is it going to be the best decision? No, I don't think it's going to be the best decision. Personally, I think Brock Purdy, great guy, but I don't think he's an elevator in the fact that he could bring you to and win a Super Bowl. Well, he could bring you to a Super Bowl. He's shown that. I don't think he could win it. He had a near perfect game in the Super Bowl last year, yet he couldn't win it. He was a Mr. Irrelevant for a reason.
Yeah.
There's a reason why he was drafted that late. For the value he gave that team, being a last pick, that contract, he gave him a lot of value. All they needed him to do was just follow the scheme that Shanahan had up and was very protective of him. But I don't think you can't talk to him on a level of he's as good as guys like I've heard he's as good as guys like Jordan Love.
Mm-mm.
And that he's not as good like a guy like Jordan Love. I would take. He's not as good as Jaden Daniels. He's not as. I would take Drake.
Bo Nix.
Bo Nix.
Yeah. Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams, I would take over
Yeah.
him right now. Well, we're mentioning guys on rookie deals. We can mention guys that are just.
Dak.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Do I take Dak over Brock Purdy? If Dallas ends up falling down and they end up getting Shedeur Sanders, could you see them trading
Yeah.
Dak to the 49ers?
And I think that's the thing that the Niners haven't had since, I guess, since Jimmy G was there. It really,
I don't think that ever happens because
Yeah.
the 49ers and
they're
rival the Dallas Cowboys. And I don't think necessarily that's the best option, to be
Yeah.
honest. If you could convince Purdy to have a team-friendly deal, I would take that over Dak Prescott. I like Purdy, but
Yeah.
how much cost?
Yeah.
Worst decision this offseason was to extend Brandon Ayuk.
Yeah.
That was a worst decision. Now you're limited more in cap. It's it's really hard. So we'll see what they end up doing.
Yeah.
I don't envy their position at all. Let's head into some NFL news. So New York Post posted an article today saying Jim Harbaugh reached out to the Bears and he was interested in being their coach. The Bears, specifically Kevin Warren, quashed the idea. Saying he wouldn't be a head coach here. Vince Lombardi said, not Vince Lombardi, Lombardi said that Kevin Warren is running the team. Let's make no mistake about that. You could sit there and say somebody else is, but he really is. What do you think about this?
Yeah.
Because it seems like everything runs through Kevin Warren.
And
I remind you, Kevin Warren is not an NFL talent. What do you call it? Yes, talent evaluator. He's more of a money guy. He was brought in to solely get the Bears an NFL stadium, a state-of-the-art NFL stadium in Arlington Heights or in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
He's done none of that so far, and he's got all this power. He's running the Bears right now.
Yeah.
He's running the organization. Ryan Poles has to go through Kevin Warren, and he's not able to have any control at all, which that is the worst decision ever.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. That is the worst decision ever. Whoever thought this would be a good idea to have a team president who the GM answers to the team president, that is atrocious. It should be the owner, GM, head coach, all speaking together. But the problem is the McCaskies don't know how to run an NFL franchise.
Yep.
That's why they hired a guy like Kevin Warren. But Kevin Warren's just a numbers guy. The McCaskies are cheap. This is ridiculous. Kevin Warren should not be in football operations. He should be in the financial side of things, working on building the brand. He should be working on getting the stadium done, not deciding who's going to be the next head coach.
Yeah, that should be up to Ryan Poles.
And what kind of contracts should sign. We saw in Hard Knocks where Ryan Poles had to ask Kevin Warren if it was all right for the DJ Moore contract. That is outrageous. No NFL franchise does that at all. You're going to get head coaches that not want to be the head coach because of that situation. Andrew, I know I've been frustrated and saying, what are your thoughts about Kevin Warren? Because we really didn't know much about him. We all knew he ran the Big Ten. That was it. We didn't know much about him. But what are your thoughts on Kevin Warren, and what are your thoughts on he was the reason why?
Yeah, it really doesn't make sense to me. Obviously, you want them all working together to find this head coach, because they came out and said that Kevin Warren is gonna run the search. Then what point do the McCaskies serve? Why are they still here? Why are you not gonna have any input on? I'm sure they'll have input, but why are you not going to help? Why aren't you, Kevin Warren, and Poles not going to work together to find this head coach? You need to find the right guy, and obviously 3 minds are better than one. And I'm sure Ryan Poles is going to obviously have influence on this. And it really doesn't. It really doesn't make sense to me. Oh, it probably froze. Yeah, it really doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
It really doesn't make sense to me why you would put a guy like Kevin Warren in charge. Why not have Poles? Poles proved to make these. Poles is a good GM with that trade. He's had some iffy takes and stuff with Eberflus, but he didn't hire Eberflus or whatever. Or he came in with Eberflus. But the McCaskies, there's no reason that they shouldn't work with Kevin Warren. And like you were saying, Kevin Warren is a money guy, so there really is no point in letting him lead the search. His focus should be on that damn stadium, because that's what they need ASAP. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's crazy. I think we're done talking about Kevin Warren and the Chicago Bears for a while.
Yeah.
Refuse to talk about. We're not going to talk about the Bears for at least a couple weeks. We got to stop talking. There's too much news coming out of there. Let's
Yeah.
stop it. Stop it with the news. Let's talk about another interesting thing that came out today. Happened at like around a couple hours before we were film. Most interesting plot twist Ian Rappaport tweeted in the NFL coaching carousel is UNC is speaking with Bill Belichick on becoming the head coach of UNC.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I
The
think
baby blues and the
I think he just wants to hang out with the college girls. That's probably what it is. Honestly, hang it up, Bill. You have the rings. You have the rings to show for it. You coached the greatest quarterback of all time. You coached one of the greatest tight ends of all time. You got the rings. There's no need to go out and do it. But
how does Bill recruit?
yeah.
How does Bill recruit? Is he gonna be like, yeah, come play for me. We'll win tons of national championships and yada yada yada.
I don't think
or in this melatonin.
I don't think he
voice
needs to recruit. He's Bill Belichick. I think people will come to North Carolina if Bill Belichick goes there. It's like, hey, I want to be coached by Bill Belichick, so let's commit to North Carolina.
Do your job.
Yeah. But I don't know. It would be an interesting situation because obviously, former NFL legend head coach had a iffy time with the Patriots in the last half of his career. Been's out of a job this year. Now to come back and coach college, we see like with Matt Rule, he obviously didn't work out in the NFL. Went and coached Nebraska. Nebraska didn't look too bad this year. A lot of these NFL coaches that don't work out work pretty good in college. So that would be interesting to see him get a role there and be interesting to follow that.
That would be very interesting to see him go to college. If he does good, then he does good.
Yeah.
Who knows about that one? NFL unveils their Walter Payton Man of the Year nominees. So there's a bunch of NFL players that were nominated. Arizona was Trey McBride. Atlanta, Grady Jarrett. Baltimore was Roquan Smith. I'm not going to go through them all, but you could look them up online. But Walter Payton Man of the Year is a prestigious honor given out to people who did good off the field and on the field. They're very good people on and off the field, and I love this award. And it's probably one of the most it's the most prestigious award an NFL player can get. I think it's the hardest award any player can get. And once you're a Walter Payton Man of the Year, you're always a Walter Payton Man of the Year. You always get that on your jersey, and nobody can take that away. So, I love seeing this time of year when they announces everything like that. Niners, Christian McCaffrey, he's out for the year. What do you do with him? He's had so many bad injuries.
Yeah.
How old is he? Do you know?
I feel like he's close to 30.
Let me look that up.
You gave him the thing is you gave him the bag. He brought you to the Super Bowl. But we saw him with the Panthers banged up. Beginning of this year, banged up. Plays 2 games, banged up
28.
again. Yeah.
28 for a running back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. He's about at that age where they kind of break down, but you also see guys like Derrick Henry in their 30s. Like, I think Derrick Henry's like 32 or something. He's insane. He's just a freak of nature. But who knows with him? I mean, it's going to be he's had so many bad injuries. It's so hard for him.
Yeah.
This might affect him next season. And speaking of another guy in IR, he will undergo surgery on the year. Trevor Lawrence has been placed on IR, and he will undergo shoulder surgery. So
yeah,
that's another team that you're like, what do they do?
Yeah, I mean, you got Mac Jones, and Mac Jones was drafted high in the draft, but it's Mac Jones. I mean, and another thing is Al-Shahir, he got suspended for 3 weeks, and then the NFL appealed his suspension. And how does, like, obviously I'm steering away from your question, but how does that look on the NFL? You're all about safety. Oh, let's change the kickoff. No hip drop tackles. No doing this. And then this player makes this dirty ass hit on Trevor Lawrence, suspended 3 weeks. Oh, let's just appeal that suspension. What do you think that says for the league, and what do you think that says about Shahir?
I'm more on the take that they need to start penalizing both offensive and defensive players.
Yeah.
Look back at it, and you've seen some clips where Patrick Mahomes looks like he's running towards the sideline. And nope, he slips back out, and he slips and runs for 10, 15 more yards. Well, to me, that's unacceptable. Because guys are giving up there because they don't want, as soon as he steps out of bounds and you lay a finger on Patrick Mahomes, you're going to get a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah.
So guys aren't touched. Quarterbacks, I think that's worse than a fake slide, to be honest. I think it's worse than a fake slide. I think it needs to be on both players as well. I think you're finding too many defensive players, and I think offensive players, I think offensive coordinators have pushed it to the edge. They haven't protected their quarterbacks as much because these rules are made to protect the quarterbacks. But these offensive coordinators are realizing, hey, our quarterback can run, and he basically is he's not really a running back per se out there. He's our quarterback. It's hard to explain, but they're more likely to call a penalty when Mahomes is running or towards the sideline than it is a random player who gets tackled out of bounds. It's a very weird dynamic they have in the NFL, and I think offensive coordinators have been able to use that to their advantage.
Yeah.
To get more yards, and I think they need to protect their guys.
And I agree with you. Obviously, the Trevor Lawrence slide wasn't necessarily the most on him because he did kind of slide. He did kind of slide last second, and that's the thing. Which should have been why they appealed it. But like you were saying with the Patrick Mahomes, like he's running, looks like he's gonna go out of bounds, cuts in, and then goes all the way to like the 2-yard line or whatever. Like you were saying, even if it's not like a major fine, like if a defensive player were to do it, at least something to hold up to that, because like you were saying, they protect the quarterback, but the quarterback needs to show that. They need to be like, okay, I'm gonna go out of bounds because I know that if you're gonna hit me, then you're gonna get whatever. But I think that, like you were saying, the quarterback should be fined, even if it's a small amount. It should be like, hey, you can't do this. You really got to just go out of bounds and commit to it because it's some nonsense.
The Shahir hit was nasty. It was a bad example to bring up this situation, but I think there needs to be on both sides as well, not just one. But definitely, this hit was a nasty hit. But a guy who, I don't know, really doesn't seem like he's the dirtiest player in the NFL. But yeah, it's unfortunate that we even have to talk about this. We wish it just doesn't ever happen, but it is a part of the game.
Yeah.
We mentioned Deontay Johnson suspended for 1 game. That's as well.
Zach Martin out for a season-ending ankle injury, possible retirement.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah, Pro Bowl guard, 9-time Pro Bowl guard Zach Martin. That was announced today.
That would hurt him. Hurt the Cowboys in general.
Yeah. Isaac Guerrero gearing up for first start. We kind of touched on that earlier. Rookie from Louisville, just 42 carries a season, so we'll see how that goes.
Let's head into week 14. Let's pick some games here. Let's pick some games. Let's start with tonight. Right? Today's Thursday, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that game kicks off like a couple
So you'll probably already see the everything.
Yeah.
Or the game results before this airs. Who do you think wins tonight?
I'm going to say the Lions.
It's at Detroit.
Yeah.
It's in a dome.
Yeah, I'm going to say the Lions. That atmosphere is impossible to play in. You have this team that has no holes in it. Coaching is good. Running back's good. Quarterback good. Receiver good. Receiver is good. Defense great. I don't think I see the Packers taking them down. It'll be close.
I'm taking Green Bay. It's in a dome.
Yeah.
And I think it's in a dome. I think it might help them a little bit. The Lions are dealing with a lot of secondary injuries. I think they're dealing with a lot of injuries. So it'll be a very, very good game tonight. I think Green Bay ends up winning this one. I don't think Detroit will sweep the play against Green Bay. They always play tough.
Yeah.
Let's head into Jacksonville at Tennessee. Whew, what a barn burner of a game right here. Both wins combined for 5 wins, which is less than half of the wins Detroit Lions have.
Yeah.
So, who do you have in this one?
Not really a coin toss here, but I don't know. I'm just gonna say the Jags. Titans are pretty bad, but I don't know.
I'm going to say Tennessee. Tennessee, I think they played pretty well recently. They ended up beating the Texans. Of course, they lost against the Commanders. But I think Will Levis is developing into a decent quarterback. I think he needs one more year. I give him another year. I think he shows more development over the past 2 games. So I think Will Levis will get a win in Nashville. Let's head into New York Jets at Miami. Breece Hall questionable in this one. He was not at practice today. He might not play. Tyreek Hill is questionable as well, same as Raheem Mostert, and Sauce Gardner is questionable for the Jets in this one. New York at Miami. Who do you have in this one?
I gotta take Miami. I don't see the Jets winning at all. Aaron Rodgers is a bum. He wanted this team. He got his coach fired. He wanted Devontae. He's gonna, retire after this year maybe, but I don't know. I don't see them winning.
Yeah, I'm taking Miami as well. I think they're just a better coach team and better team in general. Let's go to Atlanta at Minnesota. Atlanta
Cousins.
traveling to Minnesota. Kirk Cousins' revenge game. Does Kirk Cousins dial up some stuff and win this one?
Yeah, the only reason would be is if he's motivated to beat his old team, but I don't think he can based on his performance the last couple of weeks, like we were saying. So I think the Vikings are going to win this, but this game might be closer than people are thinking.
Vikings coming into the last 5 games. They have won all 5 games. Falcons on a 3-game losing streak. Do I think they snap their 3-game losing streak? No, I think they extend it to 4-game losing streak. I'll have the Minnesota Vikings winning this one. Let's go to New Orleans at New York Jets.
Giants.
Yeah. Jets, Giants, same thing. They both stink.
Another atrocious matchup.
Another atrocious matchup. I'm going to take the Saints in this one.
Yeah.
I can't trust the offensive line in New York. I just can't. They're just really bad right now.
It is really bad. Dable's another guy that could get fired after this year. I would take the Saints here.
Philadelphia home hosting the Carolina Panthers. Carolina, after that emotional game, overtime game, going in overtime, ended up losing to the Buccaneers. They head into Philly. Do you think they beat Philly?
Bryce Young has been lights out recently. He's been playing really, really, really good, but I don't think he can beat Saquon.
I'm going to take Philadelphia in this one.
Okay, I was going to say.
I'm going to take Philadelphia in this one. I thought about it, but I'm like, no, I think I'm going to take Philadelphia, especially off of strong performances last week.
Yeah.
Cleveland at Pittsburgh in this one. Cleveland ended up winning the first matchup, and which means you have to run 4 miles.
Yeah,
which
I still
you
gotta
didn't end up running that, so I will
still gotta
keep
do
mentioning it until you run 4 miles.
I will. How about this? Double or nothing.
No, double or nothing. You're stuck with the 4 miles. I'll keep that. No double or nothing.
Okay. All right. Well.
No double or nothing. That's outrageous.
Yeah.
Trying to double it.
This game last time was close, and just because it was a snow game, I think that's the reason the Browns won. If I had to pick in this one this time,
Jameis Winston. That's why.
I think the Steelers are going to win this one, but like I said earlier, with the other game, it'll be a lot
closer.
Whoa,
I've heard this story before. Somebody very confident that overlooking Jameis Winston. I'm going to take Jameis Winston the Browns. Yes. Okay. He did throw a bunch of interceptions last week, but he did throw a lot of yards. He makes it very fun to watch. So give me Jameis Winston and the Browns. I'm not very confident on it, but I'll pick him.
Yeah.
Las Vegas at Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Who do you got in that one?
I'm going to take the Bucs here. I think the Raiders came close to the Chiefs, and that was a very good step in them, but I think that maybe that botch snap might have been the killer of that momentum because they had momentum in that game, but that really killed it at the end of the game here, and I think the Bucs coming off a nice overtime win, and I think that's going to carry over.
Yeah, I'm going to take Tampa Bay as well. I like the way Baker's playing, and Mike Evans has been playing very, very well. So I think, they'll end up winning in that game at home. Let's go to Seattle and Arizona. Last time these two teams played, I think they played each other once already in this season. They did. The Seahawks ended up, it was 2 weeks ago, they ended up winning this one 16-6. Especially since Carolina coming off of a loss. Do they bounce back here? And, not Carolina, Arizona getting a loss. Do they bounce back and do they get revenge against Seattle? And do they win this game at home?
I don't know. I think that they could, and I think that they will, but I think Seattle's gonna win this. Yeah, I think Seattle's
It's a game for the division.
Yeah, basically.
Kenneth Walker questionable, DK Metcalf questionable in this one, so you got to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Arizona's favored, and I think it's very hard to beat a team twice. I'm gonna go Arizona in this one. I think.
Yeah, I would agree.
They'll get back on the road. They'll get back going.
Yeah, I'll take Seattle in this one.
I'll take Arizona. Okay.
Moving on to the next one, we got this one. It could be a crucial game for both teams. Rams and Bills. Rams also looking to say Rams win this, they'll be sitting in second place. This is a game that's a must-win for the Rams. They're going to want to keep contending in their division. But the Bills, red hot recently. I'll ask you, who do you want in this one?
Game in LA. Give me Buffalo.
Yeah, I'm going to take Buffalo too.
We're trying to hype it up like this is going to be a close game, and we choose this quick.
Yeah.
Dang. Let's go to Chicago at San Francisco. I know you're going to choose the Bears, am I right?
Yeah. I mean, we have a pick sheet at my news station or whatever, and I picked the Bears there too. I'm biased, obviously, but
You picked the Bears to win I think you picked the Bears to win every single game this season.
Yeah, I do. But the thing is, it's a lot of times what happens is the head coach gets fired, the team plays really good the week after, and then they just suck again. And I think going against a banged-up 49ers team where Isaac Guerrero making his first career start. Guerrero making his first career start.
I like that.
Niners are banged up. You're on the road in warm California, but I think that this is a very good chance for the Bears to break that 5-game losing streak. Now, will it be a pretty game? No, but I think they'll string together a win.
Both these teams are on losing streaks. San Francisco's lost the past 3. Chicago's lost the past 5. Give me the 49ers. I think the 49ers will end up winning this one. I don't see the Bears winning this one, especially with the new head coach and everything like that.
Yeah.
I don't really see it, but I'm gonna pick San Francisco. Maybe if I just never pick the Bears again, maybe they'll start winning.
We'll see that.
Then I'll And let's go to the Sunday Night Football game, the game that we both were talking about. I think, it's Chargers at Kansas City. Who do you have?
Arrowhead is a very, very, very tough stadium to play in. Chiefs are undefeated at home this year. And we were talking about it earlier. This is a turning point for the Chargers. And in prime time, now, I think it'll be a close game, but I think this is going to be the turning point the Chargers need. And I think they'll win this game. I'm sure the Chiefs obviously will probably win it, but I'm going to pick the Chargers here.
I'm going to pick the Chargers as well. I feel very confident in them. I feel more confident if J.K. Dobbins played, but I still think Chargers, I like it.
Yeah,
I'm going to choose the Chargers as well. I just don't think Kansas City, I think they'll lose one more game this year. I don't think they'll just have one loss on the season. I think they'll lose another one. I think it's against the Chargers. So let's go into Monday Night Football. Cincinnati at Dallas. What a terrible Monday Night Football game.
Yeah, it's funny because if this game was 2 years ago, this would have been like one of the games of the year. But yeah, very.
Who do you have?
Snoozer. Dallas is 1-5 at home. Finally got a home win, but still, I'm gonna take the Bengals here. The Cowboys are just atrocious. Joe Burrow just won, I think, Offensive Player of the Month or whatever. He always balls out. But I'm going to take the Bengals here on the road. I think they'll pick up the win.
Yeah, I'm going to take Cincinnati as well. They're 3-3 in away games, and I think they end up winning this one against Cooper Rush. I don't think you have to score 40 points to win this game. Although I could be wrong. It's definitely a Bengals thing to Their defense is terrible, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
A lot of crucial teams on bye weeks this week. We got the Broncos, who just got a big win, are also in contention. The Colts aren't completely out of it. They're on a bye week. Patriots, they're on bye week. Commanders, they've been in contention in talks. They've been on and off recently. They're on a bye week. Ravens, we talked about earlier, and Texans are on a bye week. So 6 bye weeks. I think this is the last stretch of bye weeks for the season.
Real quick, let's go over some eliminations and lock in. Kansas City's locked in their playoff spot, so had the Buffalo Bills as well. New England is eliminated in the playoff contention. So is Jacksonville, and so is the Las Vegas Raiders. Nobody is eliminated. Oh, there's one team eliminated in the NFC. My bad. That is in the NFC East, and the New York Giants are mathematically eliminated from the playoff. All teams are mathematically can still make the playoffs right now. So we'll figure it out. We'll do some more in-depth next week with going over standings, playoffs, and our playoff predictions. Let's do that next week.
As the playoffs approaches, it could be interesting, and it's also interesting because we're at this point in the year. The Panthers are 3-8, and they're still not out of contention yet.
Yeah,
it's insane. They have to win out. All the teams have to lose out, whatever. But that'd be interesting for us to touch on, and we definitely will. But make sure your fantasy lineups are up to date. Don't need to miss out on some points on your bench like I have in the past couple weeks. But this has been a good episode of the Anytime Sports Podcast show. Hopefully everyone's fantasy teams ball out this week, and hopefully we see a decent Bears win.
Hopefully your 5-leg parlay that you made right before the game start hit.
Yeah. All right. See you guys.
Yeah, sun shining, 24/7, clouds floating. Wait, is this heaven? Didn't even die to get here, yeah. Looking for the top, it's so clear, yeah. Everything I need is right here, yeah.